My father said I was no longer his son, so I disappeared. Years later, I found out. They declared me dead to cash in my insurance, so I showed up while they were fake mourning me and said surprise. I, 36 male, was sitting in my apartment on a Wednesday night eating leftover Chinese food when my phone buzzed. Instagram, DM. The name catches my eye. Scott O'Brien. This dude I hadn't heard from since high school. The message is short. Yo, dude. This you. Pretty sure you're supposed to be gone. Then he sends a screenshot. Facebook post from my sister Evelyn. Black and white photo of me at 17. Under it, forever in our hearts. Daniel Reed, 1992 to 2013. Gone too soon, but never forgotten. My chopsticks hit the floor. The comments made it worse. My aunt, he's in a better place now. And my mother had replied to 20 of them with, thank you for your prayers. It's what he would have wanted. I messaged Scott back. What the heck is this? Who told you I was dead? Scott sent another message. There's a video. Someone uploaded the memorial service to YouTube. I typed back, send it. The video opened with organ music. Pews packed with people I recognized, all dressed in black. Then the camera landed on her. Lucy, my mother, standing at the pulpit, in a black dress, looking devastated. We gather here today to remember our son Daniel. He made choices that took him far from us, and ultimately those choices led to his untimely death. I couldn't breathe. My father sat in the front row, stiff, complicit. Evelyn looked bored. Then came the slideshow. Photos of me as a kid. The last photo was from senior year. After that, I ceased to exist. When it ended, I sat in silence. They'd stood up in front of God and everyone and lied. I spent the next hours going down the rabbit hole, found my obituary. Daniel Reed, 21, passed away unexpectedly while traveling abroad, found the memorial page with dozens of comments from people who thought I was dead. I clicked through to the church's website, found the memorial service bulletin. They'd posted full program opening hymn scripture reading, Eulogy by Lucy Reed, closing prayer collection taken for the Daniel Reed Memorial Fund. They had monetized my fake death at the actual funeral. I pulled up my credit report, checked everything. No unusual activity. They hadn't stolen my identity for credit cards or loans. Smart. That would have triggered alerts. This was cleaner. Just erase me legally and take what was already mine. I searched for the death certificate filing found. The county records database entered my name. There it was. Certificate 2013-04782, filed March 18, 2013. Cause of death, motor vehicle accident in Kansas City, Missouri. Informant Lucy Reed. Some funeral home in Kansas City I'd never heard of. Attending physician Dr. Robert, medical examiner. I'd never been to Kansas City in my life. Never heard of Dr. Robert. And I sure as heck wasn't dead. That's when it hit me. Death certificates don't just appear. There's a whole paper trail, medical examiner reports, funeral home records, and if those were all fake, that was serious crime. Federal if they'd touched Social Security, state for forging the death certificate, tax fraud for the charity scam. This wasn't just lying. This was felony-level fraud. I grabbed my laptop and started building a timeline. Then I realized something didn't make sense. I reread the certificate filed March 2013, but they kicked me out in August 2013. I pulled up the Facebook post again. The memorial service photos were dated June 2013, 3 months after the certificate was filed. 2 months before they kicked me out. My mother had filed my death certificate while I was still living in their house, while I was eating at their table, while I was working at my dad's firm, while I was very much alive and breathing. She'd planned this, the whole thing. File the paperwork early through some scam funeral home or corrupt funeral director willing to look the other way for cash, wait a few months for the certificate to process through the system. Then manufacture a reason to kick me out. Make it look like I left angry and cut contact. Then hold the funeral, collect the sympathy, and eventually collect the money. That cold, calculated, psychotic witch. Now I know you're barely understanding a thing, so let me take you back to that day. It was August 2013. I'd just turned 21 working at my dad's commercial real estate firm. He'd been grooming me to take over since I was 12. Raymond Reed and Son Future Dynasty, all that nonsense. But I didn't want it. I wanted to write, maybe teach anything but seek schmoozing with developers. One night in late August, I came home around midnight. The whole family was waiting. Intervention style. Mom, Dad, Evelyn, and Tom, my dad's business partner. My mother spoke first. We need to talk about your choices about Brooke. Brooke, my girlfriend, the reason for this ambush. Brooke wasn't in their plan. Her dad was a mechanic. Her mom worked at the grocery store. She was nobody to them. I know you think you love her, my mother continued. But she's not right for this family. She's holding you back. From what? From becoming another jerk like Dad. My father's face went red. Watch your mouth or what? You'll disown me. I laughed. Oh, wait. Tom spoke up. Your father is planning to retire in 5 years. He can't do that if you're distracted by some girl who doesn't understand this world. Some girl, her name's Brooke, and she understands the world better than any of you. She worked her way through college, didn't have Daddy's money to coast on. Evelyn chimed in. She's a gold digger. Danny, wake up. Gold digger. She doesn't even know how much money we have. I've never told her because, unlike you, sister, I don't define myself by Dad's bank account. That's enough. My dad's voice boomed. You have a choice. The business, your family, your future, or her. I looked at all of them. My mother with her fake concern. My father with his ultimatum. Tom looking uncomfortable but staying silent. Evelyn smirked. I choose Brooke. Silence. My father's jaw clenched. Then pack your things and get out. You're serious. Completely. You want to throw away everything we've built? Fine, do it without our name, without our money. See how far you get. Evelyn hopped up from her chair. I'll get him a bag. Evelyn handed me a trash bag literally. Some of my clothes thrown inside. She smiled. Good luck being poor Danny. I took the bag and left. Brooke picked me up that night. We made it a year before my bitterness destroyed us. After that, I moved around Seattle, Sacramento, Portland, worked rough jobs, built a life from nothing, never contacted them, never looked back except they'd been busy erasing me and cashing in. The next morning, I called in sick. I needed answers. Proof. I started digging. My mother's Facebook was locked, but Evelyn's wasn't. She loved attention. I scrolled back and found a whole memorial album from 2013. Photos of the service flowers, condolence cards. One photo made my blood boil. Evelyn and my mother in black dresses. Caption celebrating Daniel's life today. Gone but never forgotten. I found the obituary. Daniel Reed, 21, died while traveling abroad. Vague enough that nobody would ask questions. If they declared me legally dead, there'd be documents, death certificates, medical examiner reports, probate filings, and if those were fraudulent, that was a serious crime. I needed help. I called Chris Lopez, my old roommate from Seattle. He'd become a lawyer in Portland criminal defense, but he knew people in the prosecutor's office. We met for lunch. I showed him everything. He let out a low whistle. Daniel, this is fraud. Serious fraud. Multiple felonies. How do I prove it? We get every document. 3. Death certificate. You already have that. Probate records if there was an estate. Financial records to show money changing hands. Medical examiner reports. Funeral home records. He looked at me seriously. This will get ugly. Nuclear level ugly. You ready? They buried me alive. Yeah, I'm ready. Over 3 weeks we built a case. Filed records requests with the county clerk, probate court, the whole system. Got copies of everything related to my death. Probate records came back first. My grandfather died in 2015. Left $75,000 to each grandchild. When his estate went through probate in Kansas, guess what? My share got redistributed because I was dead. $35,000 to Evelyn. $40,000 into the Daniel Reed Memorial Scholarship Fund. A legit registered nonprofit. Tax ID and everything. A scholarship fund in my name for kids going into commercial real estate. Chris dug into the tax filings. Nonprofits have to file publicly so anyone can see them. 3 scholarships in 9 years. Total given out $8,000. The fund had also collected donations from church members and business associates over the years, bringing in an additional $50,000. But the real kicker was where the money went. Administrative costs. Office space rented from my dad's company at $2,000 a month. Consulting fees paid to Evelyn. My mother ran it as executive director. Good grief. They didn't just fake your death, Chris said. They monetized it. And they've been running a charity scam for 9 years. We kept digging, found my name in the Social Security death records. It's public. You can search it online. Daniel Thomas Reed dead, March 15, 2013. My mother had filed for survivor benefits, got a one-time payment of $255. Not huge money, but lying to Social Security, federal crime, up to 5 years in prison. We found something else. The notary on the probate paperwork, the documents my mother used to claim my inheritance, was Tom, my dad's business partner. Same Tom from the intervention. He'd notarized her sworn statement that I was dead. Had to know it was BS. That made him an accessory. I wanted to nail them all. We called the funeral home listed on my death certificate. Peaceful Rest Funeral Services in Kansas City. Chris had his paralegal do it. They'd never heard of me. No record of services, no body, nothing. Either my mother made up the name or used a real business without them knowing. Then we checked out Dr. Robert, the doctor supposedly listed on my death certificate. Chris ran him through Missouri's medical licensing database. No Dr. Robert in 2013. Fake name. My mother either made it up or paid someone to forge it. We requested the Kansas City Medical Examiner's report referenced on the death certificate. The Kansas City Medical Examiner's office got back to us in 3 days. No such case number existed. Never had. My mother had fabricated it. This is slam dunk prosecution, Chris said one night. Documents everywhere. Your mom's looking at serious prison time if they throw the book at her. Federal and state charges. Evelyn and your dad are accessories if they knew. Tom's facing fraud charges too. What about my father? Depends what he knew and when. If he knew beforehand, he's an accessory. If he found out later but helped cover it up or took money from it, that's conspiracy. If he really didn't know and didn't help, he might walk. But he's married to her, works with Tom, and the scholarship fund paid rent to his company. He benefited. That's enough to go after him. Tom's definitely complicit. He notarized a fake death certificate. Evelyn's trickier. She benefited from the fraud, but we'd need to prove she knew you were alive when she accepted the money. She handed me a trash bag with a smile on her face. She knew. Then we make sure everyone else knows too. Chris pulled up Facebook on his laptop, scrolling through my mother's profile. Looks like your family does this big reunion thing every year. 4th of July weekend, huge party at your parents' house. Invitation says all Reed family and friends welcome. I smiled. Guess I'm family. Technically, you're going to show up to the reunion as yourself. The son they declared dead. Why not? I've been dead for 11 years. Time to resurrect. Chris leaned back and laughed. Man, I freaking love this. Okay, let's do it. But we're filing the criminal complaint first. Get it on record, then you can go haunt your family reunion like the ghost of Christmas revenge. We spent the next month preparing. Filed the formal complaint with the prosecutor's office. They agreed to hold off on making arrests until after I confronted my family. They wanted to see if anyone would incriminate themselves further. I met with the prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 40s named Monica, who looked at me and said, "Your family sounds like a piece of work. You have no idea." Actually, I do. I deal with family fraud cases all the time, but faking a death, that's a new one. And the fact that they profited from it, that makes me angry. We're going to nail them. I liked Monica. I also needed to document everything because I wanted everyone to know what they did, something they couldn't scrub away. I decided to start a blog, anonymous at first, just documenting the facts, the timeline, the documents, everything. I called it The Ghost in the Machine. Posted the first entry a week before the reunion. No names yet, just the story. Family kicks out son over girlfriend. Family declares son dead 11 years later. Son finds out and plans revenge. It got like 40 views. Mostly bots probably, but it was out there. My story waiting to explode. 4th of July was 2 weeks away. I bought a plane ticket back to my hometown, a place I swore I'd never return to. But I was going back as a dead man who refused to stay buried. The flight back felt surreal. I hadn't set foot in my hometown in 11 years, hadn't even driven through it. Seeing the familiar landmarks from the plane window made my stomach twist. Chris had offered to come with me, but I told him no. This was something I needed to do alone. He'd armed me with copies of every document, though. I had a folder that could end my family's reputation and possibly put my mother behind bars. That felt good. I rented a car at the airport and drove to a hotel on the edge of town. Didn't want to risk running into anyone before the reunion. I checked in, went to my room, and spread out all the documents on the bed. 3 copies of everything: death certificate, probate records, tax returns, bank statements, social security forms, the criminal complaint. I took photos of each document with my phone, uploaded them to 3 different cloud services, emailed copies to myself and Chris. If something happened, the evidence would still exist. My phone buzzed. Text from Chris. You good? Yeah. Going to their house tomorrow. Family reunion is at 2 p.m. Call me after. I want to hear everything. You'll probably read about it in the arrest reports. Even better, I spent that night going over my strategy. I'd show up an hour into the party when everyone was there and settled in. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about walking through that door, seeing their faces, watching them realize their perfect lie had come back to destroy them. The morning of the 4th, I woke up with this weird calm, like all the anger and hurt from the past 11 years had crystallized into something cold and sharp. I was ready. I got dressed, jeans button-up shirt, grabbed the folder of documents, took one last look in the mirror. "Let's go haunt some people," I said. The drive to my parents' house took 15 minutes. I knew the route by heart even after all these years. Past the high school, past the park where I used to skateboard, past Brooke's old street. I wondered if she still lived there. Probably not. She was probably long gone, living a good life somewhere. I hope so. My parents' house looked exactly the same. Big colonial, perfectly manicured lawn, American flag out front for the holiday. Cars lined the street. I could hear music and laughter from the backyard. The party was in full swing. I parked a block away and sat there for a moment. This was it. Once I walked through that door, everything would change for me, for them, for everyone at that party. Good. I got out of the car, grabbed my folder, and walked up the driveway. The front door was unlocked. I opened it and stepped inside. The house smelled the same. That specific combination of my mother's candles and wood polish. It hit me like a punch to the chest. Memories flooding back. Birthdays, holidays, the night they kicked me out. I walked through the foyer toward the back of the house where I could hear voices. The living room was empty. Everyone was outside. I stopped at the sliding glass door and looked out at the party. 50, maybe 60 people, family, friends, business associates, all mingling on the deck and lawn. There was my dad holding court with some of his real estate buddies. My mother moving through the crowd like a social butterfly, and Evelyn standing with who I assumed was her husband, looking expensive and bored. I slid open the door and stepped out onto the deck. For a few seconds, nobody noticed. Then someone did. A cousin I barely remembered. She looked at me, looked away, then did a double take. Her mouth fell open. The conversation around her stopped. People started turning, staring. The silence spread like a wave through the party until everyone was looking at me. My mother saw me. The glass in her hand slipped, shattering on the deck. "Hey, Mom," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Miss me?" Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. My father was the first to find his voice. "Daniel in the flesh." I walked down the deck steps. People scrambled out of my way. Funny thing, I was scrolling Instagram last week and found out I died 11 years ago. Car accident, apparently. Except I definitely remember being alive. My mother had gone white. "Daniel, I can explain. Can you—" I pulled out my folder and removed the first document. Death certificate. Lucen Reed informant says, "I died in a car accident in Kansas City, Missouri. Case number KC-ME-2030847. I looked around at everyone. I called Kansas City PD. That case number doesn't exist. Never did. I walked through the crowd holding it up. Certificate was notarized by Tom Hendricks 3 days before filing. Whole thing's a forgery. Jesus Christ, someone muttered. Everyone was glancing at each other, speechless. I pulled out the second document. Probate court filing. Grandpa Walter died in 2015. Left $75,000 to each grandchild. Except I'm listed as dead, so my share got split up. $35,000 to Evelyn, $40,000 to the Daniel Reed Memorial Scholarship Fund, a nonprofit Mom set up in my name. Evelyn's face had gone red. "Daniel, you need to leave." Not done. I held up the third document. Charity tax returns. 9 years of this fund. 3 scholarships given out. $8,000 total. But the fund claimed over $85,000 in expenses across all the donations they collected, paid to cross-filing. That's Mom's company. You skimmed over 90% of a charity you made in my name. I pulled out one final page. Criminal complaint filed last week. Fraud charges, theft, falsifying documents. Prosecutors already moving forward. The crowd erupted. People shouting questions at my parents. Others pulling out their phones recording. My grandmother was crying, asking my mother how she could do this. An uncle I barely remembered was yelling about being lied to for years. One of my dad's business partners stormed off, throwing his bottle in the trash hard enough that it made a loud bang. My mother sank into a chair, head in her hands. Evelyn was screaming at me, calling me vindictive, telling me I was destroying the family. My father just stood there, frozen, watching his perfect life collapse in real time. I walked up to him. "You told me to get out 11 years ago. Well, I made it without you, without your money." I stepped back. Now you get to see what happens when everyone knows the truth. Someone in the crowd yelled, "You faked your own son's death for money." Another voice, "Lucy, how could you?" My mother looked up, mascara running. "You don't understand. We understand perfectly." My grandmother said, her voice shaking, "You're a liar and a thief." I turned and walked toward the house. My mother's voice cut through the noise. "Daniel, please." I stopped, looked back. "You declared me dead, you cashed in. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are." I walked through the house and out the front door, got in my rental car and left. Behind me, I could still hear the chaos. People yelling, accusations flying, the perfect 4th of July party imploding. I called Chris. "It's done. How'd it go? Like a nuclear bomb." "Perfect." The aftermath was faster and more brutal than I expected. I stayed at the hotel that night, and by morning my phone was exploding. Texts from distant relatives, Facebook messages from old acquaintances. Everyone wanted the story, the gossip, their piece of the drama. I ignored most of it, spent the morning updating my blog. Posted the full story with one caveat. No names yet. Called them mother, father, sister. The people who knew would know. But I also updated my social media. Changed my Facebook to public. Added a profile picture of me very much alive with the caption, "Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated." The blog post went semi-viral. Thousands of views, people were sharing it. Chris called around noon. "Dude, prosecutor's office is moving forward. Your mom's arraignment is next week, and Evelyn's husband is filing for divorce. Didn't know about the fraud? Feels betrayed." I laughed. "Good. There's more. Your dad's business partners are bailing, putting out statements. Your mom got removed from the church board. Someone leaked it to local news. It's airing tonight." That evening, I watched from my hotel. Lead story. Local woman accused of faking son's death for financial gain. The prosecutor, Monica, was interviewed. Professional, but determined. "This is one of the most egregious fraud cases I've seen. Mrs. Reed not only falsified government documents, she profited from it. We're pursuing maximum penalties." My mother was shown leaving her house surrounded by reporters looking destroyed. She said nothing, just got in her car and left. I felt nothing. The story spread. Podcast hosts wanted interviews. I ignored most of it. 1 week later, Brooke messaged me. My ex, the reason they'd kicked me out. "Hey, saw the news. Holy heck, are you okay?" We messaged for an hour, caught up. Normal conversation. A reminder that not everything from my past was toxic. Before signing off, she wrote, "I'm proud of you for surviving, for fighting back, for not letting them win." That hit different. Made my throat tight because I'd spent years thinking I was the problem, but I wasn't. They were. The legal case moved forward. My mother tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't having it. They wanted this to go to trial to be a warning to anyone else who thought they could commit fraud and get away with it. But the real punishment wasn't going to be legal. It was social. My mother couldn't show her face in town without people whispering. My father lost 3 major business deals because his partners didn't want to be associated with the scandal. Tom Hendris got hit with his own charges. Accessory to fraud. State Bar opened an investigation. He'd lose his notary license at minimum, maybe face charges. His wife filed for separation 3 days later. The church my parents had attended for 30 years asked them not to return. My mother's book club disbanded. My father's golf buddies stopped calling. The family was shattered. About 2 months after the confrontation, I got a text from an unknown number. "Daniel, it's your father. We need to talk." I stared at it. Part of me wanted to delete and block, move on. But another part, the part that had wondered for 11 years if they'd ever acknowledged what they'd done, wanted to hear it. I texted back about what? Everything. "Please, just us. I owe you that." I thought about it. Talked to Chris, who said, "Bad idea." Talked to my therapist, who said, "Maybe closure, but be careful." In the end, I agreed. Neutral location coffee shop in the next town. Told Chris where I'd be to call cops if I didn't check in within 2 hours. My father showed up looking terrible, not the polished Raymond Reed. I remembered a broken man. Good. He sat across from me, ordered coffee. He didn't touch, just looked at me. "You look good," he finally said. "Yeah, well, being alive will do that," he winced. "Daniel, Why am I here, Dad? What do you want?" He took a breath. "I want to apologize for everything, for all of it." I leaned back and laughed bitter. "You want to apologize now? After 11 years, after declaring me dead, after stealing my inheritance, now you're sorry. I know it's not enough. It's not even close." He looked at his hands. I didn't know she was going to file the death certificate. I swear when you left, your mother was devastated. Not because she missed you, but because you'd embarrassed her. Chosen someone outside the family. Made her look bad. She said we should tell people you'd moved away. I agreed. I thought that was the end, but it wasn't. No. Few months later, she told me you'd died. Car accident overseas. I didn't believe her at first, but she showed me the death certificate. Said she'd gotten confirmation from the embassy. I quote. He trailed off. I wanted to believe it was real because it was easier than admitting we'd lost you. Well, so you went along with it. The funeral, the scholarship fund, everything. I thought you were really dead, Daniel. I mourned you. I leaned forward. When did you find out the truth? Long silence. Then last year saw a charge on our credit card, payment to a PI firm in Seattle. When I asked her, she broke down. Said she'd been tracking you since 2014. Where you lived, where you worked, had photos. She knew you were alive and kept the lie going for the money. Why didn't you tell anyone? My voice shook. Why didn't you report her? Because I'm a coward, he said simply. Coming clean meant losing everything. The business, our reputation, your mother and I chose to protect those things instead of you. At least he was honest. Didn't make it better. Is that why you're here, to clear your conscience? I'm here because you deserved better. A family who supported you instead of erasing you. He looked at me with actual regret. I can't fix what I did, but I wanted you to know that I know I failed you. We sat in silence. The coffee shop buzzed around us. People living normal lives, unaware a dead man was having coffee with his father. Finally, I spoke. Where's Mom now? Out on bail. Trials in 3 months. Her lawyer thinks probation community service fine. No jail. But she's not well. Daniel breakdown. Won't leave the house. Won't talk to anyone. Evelyn won't speak to her. The church banned her. She lost everything. Good, I said coldly. She deserves it. He didn't argue. And Evelyn gone. Moved to Arizona. Her husband divorced her, took their kid. There. She blames you for everything. Of course she does. Evelyn never takes responsibility for her own actions. My father reached across the table like he might take my hand, then thought better of it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to hear me say it. I'm sorry for all of it. You're my son, and I should have protected you. Should have chosen you over everything else, but I didn't, and I'll live with that for the rest of my life. I stood up. The conversation was over. I'm not your son. You made that clear 11 years ago. And you made it clearer when you let her bury me. Daniel, save it. You want to feel better about what you did? Go tell it to a therapist or a priest or whoever, but don't come to me. I'm not in the forgiveness business. I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. My phone buzzed with a text from Chris as I got to my car. Everything's good. Yeah. Just needed to hear him admit he's a coward. Did he, in so many words? In so many. And more importantly, I needed to look him in the eye and feel nothing. Mission accomplished. I drove back to Portland the next day. Left that town behind for what I hoped was the last time. I'd said what I needed to say, done what I needed to do. Now it was time to actually move on and stop looking back at the wreckage. The trial happened 3 months later. I didn't attend, but Chris kept me updated. My mother's lawyer cut a deal. She pleaded guilty to some misdemeanors, falsifying records theft. Prosecutor dropped the big federal charges. Wire fraud's hard to prove, apparently. The deal. 18 months probation, 400 hours community service, $75,000, back to me, 12 grand in fines, no jail time, first offense, white-collar crime. Oregon's soft on this stuff. The real punishment was everyone knowing what she did. The scholarship fund was dissolved. The money was redistributed to actual scholarship programs. My name was removed from everything. Good. I didn't want to be associated with them anyway. Evelyn never reached out. Neither did my mother. My father sent one more text about 6 months after our coffee shop meeting. Just, I hope you're doing well. I didn't respond, but I moved on, kept working, got promoted, got a better apartment this time, with an actual view of the city, started dating someone new, a woman named Rachel, who I met at a friend's party. When she asked about my family, I told her the whole story. She listened without judgment, and then said, "Dang, who needs enemies when you got a family like that?" I liked her immediately. My blog became a small platform for other people who'd been downed or erased by their families. I got messages every day from people sharing their stories, asking for advice and finding community. The story of my resurrection faded from the news cycle. Eventually, new scandals. People forgot about my family and their fraud. But the internet doesn't forget. My blog posts were still out there, a permanent record of what they did. About a year after the trial, I ran into Scott at a coffee shop. The same guy who'd sent me that first Instagram message, the one that started this whole thing. We caught up, talked about life, laughed about how insane everything had been. "Man," he said halfway through his second coffee, "I'm glad you're not dead." "Yeah, me too. You ever think about forgiving them?" "Your family." "No. What they did was unforgivable. They erased me, profited from erasing me, and they didn't feel bad about it until they got caught." He nodded. "Fair enough." Then one evening, I got a message from an anonymous email address. No name, but I knew who it was. "Daniel, I know you don't believe me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that I think about you every day about what I destroyed. I don't expect you to respond. I just needed to say it. I'm sorry, Mother." I didn't respond. Didn't owe her anything. She'd made her choice 11 years ago, and I'd made mine. Life moved on. I didn't hear from any of them until 4 years later. My dad showed up again and dropped this bomb. The knock on the door came on a random Thursday evening. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Rachel was out with friends. I figured it was a delivery. I opened the door and found my father standing there. He looked way older, broken. "Son," he said quietly. I stood there, hand on the doorknob, debating whether to slam it in his face. "What brings you here? Just 5 minutes, please?" I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. Wasn't going to invite him into my home. "5 minutes," I said. He took a breath like he'd been practicing this. "Your mother died." I paused. Wasn't expecting that. "When?" 3 weeks ago. "Heart attack." "She'd been sick. Wouldn't see doctors." He paused. "I think she gave up after the trial. Daniel, she died grieving you. I don't know if that makes me an a-hole, but honestly, I did not care." "And you're telling me this because," I asked, "because you're her son." "I never was, and I don't care." He flinched but didn't argue. "The funeral is Friday. You don't have to come. I'm not asking you to, but I wanted to tell you in person. Is Evelyn coming?" "No. She didn't want anything to do with it." "With me? With any of this? She's still blaming us for ruining her life after the divorce." We stood in silence for a moment. I looked at this man who used to terrify me. Now he just looked sad and old and defeated. "Anything else?" I asked. "Yeah," he said calmly. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Tried to hand it to me. "What is it, money?" "The $75,000 from your grandfather. I know the court ordered it paid back, but it went into the estate. This is yours. Your rightful inheritance. I should have given it to you years ago. I don't want it, Daniel. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. I built my life without it. I don't need it now. Then donate it. Give it to charity. Do whatever you want with it, but it's yours. I'm not keeping it." He set the envelope on the porch railing and stepped back. "I'm sorry, son," he said again. "I know I've said it before. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I regret everything." I looked at him for a long moment. "You didn't lose everything," I said quietly. "You threw it away. You're right. She died thinking she was the victim, thinking everyone was against her for no reason. She never actually understood what she did wrong. Did she?" He looked down. "No, she didn't. And you? Do you understand what you did wrong?" He met my eyes. "I'm a coward who destroyed his family to maintain an image. Yes, I understand." It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. "Good," I said. "Now live with it." I picked up the envelope from the railing. "I'm going to donate this." "That's good. That's a good thing to do. Your 5 minutes are up." He nodded, then walked to his car. I watched him drive away. Then I went back inside, threw the envelope on the counter, and went back to making dinner. Rachel came home an hour later, took one look at me and asked, "What happened?" I told her everything. Then she asked, "Are you going to the funeral?" Heck no. That Friday, while my mother's funeral was happening 2 states away, I was at work managing the dinner rush. Rachel came by after her shift. We got coffee with friends, lived our lives. I never saw my father again. The $75,000 restitution came through 16 months later. I split it between homeless youth services and a fraud victim fund. And me, I'm still here. They wanted me gone. Fine, I'm gone. But I took their power with me and I'm never giving it back.